She wiped the sweat from her forehead with the back of her wrist, exhaling sharply as she hauled another heavy log across the clearing. The mountain air was cool, but building a cabin alone was a battle fought under the raw sun. Every morning she woke before dawn, tying her hair into a knot, rolling her sleeves up, and stepping into the woods with her axe, determination burning brighter than the sunrise. She had come here with nothing but a broken past and a promise to herself. No more depending on anyone, no more waiting for life to change. If she wanted a home, she would build it with her own hands. And so she swung her axe, carried logs, scraped her knuckles, and whispered to herself that she was strong enough to do it all. What she didn't know was that across the valley, high on the ridge, a cowboy on horseback watched her every single day, not in a way that threatened her freedom, not with control or claim. He watched her because something about her reminded him of a flame he thought he had lost long ago, the kind of flame that warms a lonely man's heart, the kind of flame he had buried when his wife and child passed away years before. He had sworn never to feel again, but watching her work one log at a time stirred something he didn't recognize anymore: hope. Every afternoon he rode through that ridge to check on the cattle, but his eyes always drifted to the woman swinging the axe below, her strength echoing through the valley, her stubbornness refusing defeat. He admired the way she cursed softly when a log slipped, the way she laughed at herself when she tripped, the way she stood up again every single time. She didn't know she wasn't alone, and he didn't want to scare her off by showing up out of nowhere. But when the storm rolled in early that evening, dark, heavy clouds swallowing the sky, he knew she wouldn't make it to safety in time. Thunder cracked like an angry whip, and the rain poured down with the force of a falling river. He kicked his horse into a run, racing across the valley, mud splashing beneath the hooves. She was still outside fighting with a tarp, trying to save the frame of her half-built roof, slipping as the storm battered the clearing. Lightning struck a tree nearby, and she jumped, losing her footing as the wind ripped the tarp from her hands. He reached her just as she fell back into the mud, her hands raw and scraped, her breath coming in shallow gasps. "You can't stay out here," he shouted through the roar of the storm, jumping off his horse. She stared up at him, shocked, blinking rainwater out of her eyes. She was used to handling problems alone. She'd never asked anyone for help, not since the day her fiancé walked away with everything she owned, leaving her to rebuild herself from rubble. She didn't trust strangers. She didn't trust kindness. But the cowboy didn't hesitate. He reached out and grabbed her wrist gently, guiding her toward shelter beneath the half-standing frame. The rain beat around them like hailstones. The storm turned the ground into a river. She tried to pull her hand away, but she slipped again, and he steadied her firmly. "I've been watching you," he said, his voice steady. She froze. "Not in a bad way," he added quickly. "Just admiring your strength. You work harder than most men out here." She swallowed, unsure what to say. No one had ever praised her without wanting something in return. When the storm got worse, the entire frame shuddered, ready to collapse. He looked at her, mud on her cheeks, stubborn fire in her eyes, and made a split-second decision. He scooped her into his arms, ignoring her protests, and ran with her toward the small hunting cabin he owned a mile away. Inside, she shivered by the fire while he dried his jacket and kept a respectful distance. She stared at him cautiously, wondering what he wanted. But all he said was, "You remind me of someone I lost, a woman who didn't know how strong she was. Watching you build that cabin, it makes a man believe in second chances." Her chest tightened with something she hadn't felt in a long time. Safety, warmth, a strange comfort she didn't want to name. They sat together as the storm raged outside, lightning flashing across the windows. She whispered, "I've been alone for a long time." He nodded slowly. "So have I." They didn't know it yet, but the storm had done more than destroy her construction site. It had brought two lonely souls into the same room, two people who had been surviving life, not living it. And for the first time in years, neither of them was alone. And that night, as the fire crackled between them and the storm faded into silence, destiny shifted. What began with broken logs and broken hearts was slowly becoming something else. Something neither of them was ready for, yet both desperately needed. She returned to the clearing the next morning, and the damage hit her like a punch. Half the logs were scattered, the roof frame ruined, the walls leaning like a wounded animal. She felt her throat tighten, tears stinging her eyes, but she refused to break. Not in front of him. The cowboy stood behind her silently, hat in his hands, watching the way her shoulders trembled, even though she tried so hard to hide it. She knelt beside a fallen log and touched it gently, as if apologizing to it for the chaos the storm brought. "It took me 3 weeks to get this far," she whispered, voice cracking. 3 weeks of trying to prove I could do this alone. He stepped forward, his voice calm and warm like morning sunlight. "Doing it alone doesn't make you strong. Choosing to keep going does." She didn't look at him, but she felt something inside her shift, the part of her that always rejected help, always pushed people away. He walked past her and grabbed one of the heavy logs, lifting it with ease. "Let me help you." She opened her mouth to argue, but the words didn't come, because deep down she was tired. Tired of carrying her whole life like a burden. Tired of pretending she didn't feel the weight. So she let him work beside her. For the first time, someone shared her load. He didn't question her decisions or judge her methods. He followed her instructions, smiled at her stubborn moments, and listened when she talked about her dreams she had never said out loud before. As days turned into weeks, the cabin rose again from the ground, not out of desperation this time, but out of teamwork, out of laughter, out of steady breath shared between two hearts quietly healing. She didn't notice it at first, the way he looked at her when she wasn't watching, the way he smiled when she succeeded, the way he paused when she brushed dirt from her hair. But others noticed. Ranchers passing by saw the cowboy work harder than he had in years. They whispered that he was coming back to life. The lonely widower who once avoided the world was now building a home, not just a cabin, for someone he cared about. One evening, after the last log was set in place, she stood on the porch, staring at the sunset staining the sky in gold and crimson. He came up behind her quietly. "It's beautiful," she murmured. "It is," he said softly, eyes on her, not the sky. She felt her breath catch. She had known this moment was coming, the moment where silence held more meaning than words, the moment where her heart wasn't afraid anymore. "Why do you keep helping me?" she whispered, turning toward him. He hesitated only for a second. "Because building your cabin made me realize something." Her heartbeat quickened. He removed his hat slowly, his brown eyes warm but vulnerable. "It made me realize I don't want to live the rest of my life alone." She swallowed hard. "I didn't ask you to stay," he smiled gently. "You didn't have to. My heart already did." She stepped closer, her voice barely a breath. "I've been afraid to trust, to start again, to let anyone close." He nodded, understanding more deeply than she expected. "So was I, until you swung that axe like you were fighting your past. And winning." A soft laugh escaped her lips, nervous, tender. Then he reached out slowly, giving her time to step back if she wanted. She didn't. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch warm and steady. "Maybe," he whispered, "we could build more than a cabin together." Her chest tightened with emotion she had buried long ago. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She simply let herself feel a dangerous, beautiful feeling she thought she had lost forever. She nodded. "Maybe we could." The wind rustled the trees gently, as if the mountains themselves approved. That evening, under the soft glow of twilight, the widowed cowboy and the fiercely independent builder finally let their walls fall, not with grand declarations, not with dramatic promises, but with quiet acceptance too. Souls choosing each other after years of loneliness.